Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about 12 items or areas of focus that I always make sure I have on hand when I fly. I have been traveling a lot for the last couple of years, whether it's vacation or work travel, and being preparedness focused means I'm always taking my bug out bag with me. Sometimes I'm traveling with a group and with family, other times I'm traveling solo, and I've found through a lot of trial and error on these adventures what is best for me to keep on hand. Stick around to the end. I will share my favorite item that I never leave without. I'll also share some specific considerations for my ladies and parents. All right, let's take a look at the bag itself. Now, this is the bag. And you can see I still have the flight transfer tag still on it because I actually just got back from a trip. From the bag itself, I wanted to mention it's important that you find a bag that is sturdy enough for you, that has kind of the organization pockets that you will need. There are a lot of different bag preferences out there. This has worked for me for a number of years. And again, everything I talk about, I will include links in the description below. So as we go through this video, please also share if you have similar items or a different variation of items. I'd love to learn from all of you. The bag itself, a few tips. If you are going to be considering checking this bag in for flying, I would highly recommend, if you have a bag that is very general in appearance, like this one, that you consider putting some type of ribbon or some indicator where you will be able to identify your bag as it comes kind of down the carousel. Now, I did want to mention something for a carry-on bag versus checked baggage, which I've done both. And this last trip, I had checked this bag in. If you are considering checking your bag in, there are going to be some special considerations, which I'll go over a little bit later in the video. But for this exterior of the bag, if you're going to be checking this as checked luggage, you want to be mindful of the different attachments that you might have on the exterior of the bag itself. So for example, here I have a whistle, compass, combination, variation. The things that you keep on the exterior of your bag may be subject to being broken, being lost or stolen. So if you have the opportunity to maybe take things that are kind of hanging on the exterior off, if you don't want to lose it during transit, it's probably best to tuck it away and then reattach it once you're reunited with your bag. The same goes for any exterior walkie-talkies. Again, if you're going to be checking this bag in, make sure that the exterior things are tucked away and secured. Some people like to still kind of lock their bags up with TSA approved locks. That is totally your choice. I have not run into any incident where things have been missing when I've checked this bag in, thankfully, but it's always something you'll need to consider. All right, let's dive in. Now, the first item or area of focus I really want to cover is water. And this is particularly tricky because as you're going through TSA and security, you really cannot take anything with you outside of the maximum 3.4 fluid ounces. And that's not a lot. So when I want to be conscious about water preps and I'm traveling, I'm always bringing a water bottle. Now, a water bottle is going to be really your preference. I carry this exact one with me a lot. I'm limited, of course, to the size of my water bottle and it not being a collapsible one. If you're more concerned about space and kind of keeping everything compact, they do make collapsible water bottles. This is a whole liter. And when it's not in use, like when you're going through security, you can fold this in on itself and it packs away really nicely. You'll often find that there are a number of water refill stations at airports, which are super handy once you get past security. I always make a point to refill my water bottle as soon as I'm cleared through security to make sure I at least have water in the water bottle that I'm bringing on board. Now, if you have the space to spare in your bug out bag, and you're going to hear me reference this a lot, but if you have the space to spare in your bug out bag, I would really encourage building some redundancy when it comes to water preps. Now, for me, that means I'm keeping a separate bag. I just use colored duct tape to really create kind of a box indicator around these bags. So this is my water prep bag outside of the water bottle that I usually take with me. I really like, again, using clear bags because I can easily see through them. This isn't exactly clear, but it does have a lot of the transparency features that help me quickly identify what I'm reaching for without even opening the bag. So in this bag, if you're building redundancy into your pack, I have a life straw. I also have water purification tablets, which are super handy. One thing I want to make sure I call out, because this is going to be really important if you find yourself traveling to urban and suburban environments, and that is a silkaki. Now, this is really going to help you access water in some of those industrial and commercial locations where they don't exactly have the same water spout to be able to access water. This is going to help unlock that. Having access to clean water is essential while traveling. All right, next up in my flight approved bug out bag is food. Now again, water is definitely one of the most essential preps, but food is a close second. Again, with the clear internal bags, in this bag I have different variations of freeze-dried food. Now personally for me, freeze-dried food is one of the easiest things to prep. It's lightweight, it's very straightforward. You have a lot of variety in the market today if you want to just buy it yourself, or if you have a freeze dryer at home, even better. You can make these meals and you can pack exactly what you know you're going to want to consume if there was ever a situation where you would need to. You want to make sure you're still packing some type of sustenance in your pack, because there may be situations where you may be stranded or without food, and you're gonna want that caloric intake, you're gonna want that energy. Other options to consider for food, and again, I know I kind of focused on freeze-dried food just because that is my preferred variety, but you could even get glucose gels. I know these are super helpful for a lot of people in a pinch to be able to get some of that sugar, some of that those calories. Some people even pack just granola bars. There are also emergency ration bars. Don't exactly taste great, but if you need the calories, this thing will do. Maybe not the best meal in a pinch, but you will definitely get what you need out of something like this. All right, next is communications, and this one can go a number of different directions for some folks. Personally, I like to travel with a pair of walkie-talkies. Now again, this may not be ideal for some people who are really looking to travel very compact, very lean. These don't take up a lot of space, and for me, it doesn't quite make sense to only take one. We have a number of walkie-talkies that we keep in the home, so being able to take two when I travel, even solo, it's not a heavy lift. I still have a number of units for my family to use at home, but I like to travel with a pair of walkie-talkies. I recently went out of the country with my sibling, and when my brother and I were kind of walking around, we didn't have cell service in that country, and to be honest with you, cell coverage was spotty to begin with. So we traveled using our walkie-talkies. We were still nearby, but we couldn't quite keep the exact line sight of each other in a crowd when we were just kind of taking in the sights and the scenery. But having walkie-talkies with us were a great way for us to stay in connection, even when we were completely out of the country and could not really rely on our phones. I think a lot of people think, oh, for communications, I'll just use my phone, but you're gonna want to think of an alternative plan if you don't have the cell phone coverage, or if this is dead and you're out of battery. All right, next up, let's talk about emergency lighting. I do keep a lot of variation of lighting in this pack. I like to keep my flashlight accessible in a more external pocket. You want to also just make sure that you are keeping your flashlight within reach, because you don't want to have to go through your pack and the multiple internal organization pockets just to find your flashlight if you need it right then and there. So one flashlight for some may do. You want to just make sure it's a good quality flashlight and that you're carrying backup batteries if it's battery operated. Some other considerations that I would encourage you to look at are a headlamp. You're gonna want access to both hands. If you can opt for a quality chem light, these are rated to last 12 hours. I prefer the green color, and again, it's all preference. Now, if you're thinking of bringing a flare, please don't do that. They are not allowed on the flight, and if you put it in your carry-on bag or your checked luggage, you will be flagged. Now, I like to group shelter and warmth together because a lot of the times these go hand in hand for me. I will travel with my emergency bivvy. Now, this is a very compact bivvy, and when you open this up and you kind of deploy it and roll it out, this is a very lightweight material. It provides kind of a sleeping bag enclosure for you to stay warm, and it gives you some shelter from the elements. I really like this because, again, it's super compact. I need to be able to utilize as much storage space as possible, especially when I'm traveling with my bug out bag. So this has been really great for me to take with me given the size and what it can offer me. You can also purchase a lot of these emergency blankets. Again, super compact. And you can carry multiples of these for kind of the same within your pack. Now, contrary to what some people may think, you can actually bring a lighter with you on the plane. You are limited to one disposable lighter per person. This is known as kind of a common lighter. I will take my one allocated common lighter and wrap it with duct tape so I kind of get the multi-purpose use out of it. You can also wrap duct tape around an old card, gift card, so that it kind of adds that stability and you won't have to take the entire roll. But I've done this with all of the lighters that I travel with, just so I can use my lighter, but also use it as an opportunity to wrap some duct tape around it for extra utility. But you are allowed a common lighter. It's not allowed in your checked baggage. And I wanna make sure I make that distinction because I did look this up on the TSA no list. You can bring a lighter with you on your person or in your carry-on, but not in your checked baggage. Now, if you're gonna ask me, why didn't I talk about stormproof matches and why didn't I talk about a ferro rod? You can absolutely bring those too, but the disposable lighters, they work so well. So if I had the choice of what I'm gonna go to first, I'm gonna choose the lighter over the stormproof matches and the ferro rod because it works a lot of the time. Do not deny the power of a disposable lighter because they are pretty dependable. All right, let's move on to tools. I'm telling you, these clear bags are really helping me stay organized. Oh, holy zip ties. From my tools, I'd have to say what I am probably gonna focus on and recommend is that you get a quality multi-tool. Now, it doesn't have to be name brand. It is something that you can find a lot of different variations on the internet, on multiple retailers, but having a good multi-tool that gives you a lot of options is really gonna be such a game changer if you find yourself in a pinch. There are so many variations to multi-tools. The point is you wanna be able to get the maximum utility out of tools that you are taking with you. Now, one lightweight notable tools mention is the P38. Now, this is actually a can opener. It's super lightweight. You can find them online as well, but this is a great way to make sure you can still open canned goods in a pinch in a survival situation. All right, next item and area of focus is shoes when we're accounting for outerwear. If you ever find yourself in an emergency and you have to walk, one of the first things to go are your feet. Come on. These are my bug out bag shoes. I have packed these with gloves. And again, when I say I want to use every available space in my bug out bag, I mean it. So my focus for outerwear is shoes, but I have made use of the space inside. One thing a lot of people forget is being able to pack some type of headwear. So whether that's a hat, whether that's a beanie, you wanna just make sure if you have the space available that you pack something in an effort to stay warm. Having a beanie is super helpful. Having a hat is great too, especially if you consider sun exposure and being able to shield your face. All right, this one is gonna be a little bit tricky because this is really only allowable for checked baggage, and this is protection and defense. Now, depending on where you're going, you may be able to fly and check in your firearm and be reunited with it once you have reached your destination, but that's gonna be subject to different considerations, again, depending on your destination. Flying with firearms and ammunition is a completely separate process. I would really advise you to read up on that process that is unique for you and your journey, and you need to know if that is something you're even able to do based on where you're traveling to. Pepper gel spray is another one of those things, and I keep mine in a little bag because in case there's any leaks or anything like that. But pepper gel spray is another one of those things you're gonna want to do a little bit more research on depending on your destination. You are allowed pepper gel spray in checked baggage. Not carry-on, but checked baggage. You can actually transport pepper spray and pepper gel spray less than 4 ounces. This is one of my EDC knives. I absolutely love taking this knife with me. This is the one I usually make sure I am putting into my checked baggage, and I take this out right away when I am reunited with my luggage because this is, again, my EDC. I carry this with me all the time. So you can carry knives in your checked baggage, not carry on. This one, super important. And it is the individual first aid kit, commonly referred to as the IFAK. You can see right here what is attached is a cat tourniquet. There are SWAT and there are chest seals. If you are going to be traveling with gear that can save a life, please make sure you know how to use your gear. Now, this is probably the largest pack that I do keep in my bug out bag because it houses so much. I've labeled this in red to make sure I differentiate this pack from the rest of what I'm carrying, because this houses all of my medical items. Now let's open this up. You're gonna see it packs quite a bit. There's a lot of things in here, everything from compression bandages to gauze to additional wound care, over-the-counter medication, topicals, additional SWAT tee, extra emergency blankets, bandages, antibacterial wipes, and even N95 masks. We even have Iosat, which is potassium iodide tablets that are packed in here. Sometimes, especially if you're traveling abroad, it's very difficult sometimes to get the right medication. Being able to get to a pharmacy is just a challenge. So you always want to make sure you have what you know you are not allergic to, and you know what you can use while traveling. But there also have been instances where I found that I want to stay extra prepared and making sure I have emergency antibiotics, and that's where Jace Case has been really helpful for me personally. Let's talk about navigation for a second. It's super easy to rely on technology with all of the map apps that are out there, destination listings, but what happens when you do not have access to the internet or if your phone is completely dead? It's super helpful to have a paper map of where you're going to be staying. Again, I know this sounds very archaic for some people, but trust me when I say sometimes these things fail. So it's always a great idea to have a very lightweight paper map of where you're going to be so you know kind of the general area. Paper maps are an incredible survival tool, especially if you're traveling. I would advise as kind of a supplement to your paper maps, including a compass. Bonus points if you can have a compass that has a signal mirror. That's just going to give you additional communications and navigation options, but you want to just make sure that you are able to kind of tell what direction you are going in at all times. So something as easy as a straightforward compass will really help provide aid when reading those paper maps. One area that a lot of people forget is cash. Now, I know we live in this digital age where we are using cards more than ever. We are using person-to-person transfer and electronic transfers more than ever. There are very real instances that you may not have access to those systems to be able to pay for goods. Having cash on hand is a great tool that will prove useful in a number of different situations. I like to carry a set amount of cash in varied bills just so that I have the opportunity to use cash in different settings. Again, it doesn't have to be a whole lot of cash, but you're going to want the flexibility to pay for goods with tangible money rather than just electronic systems. All right, so the number one thing I will always travel with and always make sure is with me, especially when I'm flying, is my power bank. Now, for some people, they're probably wondering why a power bank? There are a lot of things that rely on a charge that are just essential and practical for the everyday person. Whether it's a mobile device, a tablet, your laptop, your radio, there are so many things that require a charge that you can use for a power bank or backup power source. I've had to use my power bank and it has come through for me. So this for me, from a practical sense, is my number one prep that I'm always bringing with me. And this, no problem flying with this, whether it's your checked baggage or your carry-on, no issue with a portable battery just like this. Now, if you're wondering what's on the TSA do not bring list, here's what I found. For carry-ons, obviously no loose gunpowder or ammunition. Absolutely no butane or propane, anything for both checked baggage and carry-on. Please leave the brass knuckles at home. Interestingly, there was some mixed feedback when it comes to tasers. You can bring that in a checked baggage, but it has to be rendered inoperable and checked by, I'm assuming, a TSA agent. That one was a little weird. For my ladies, please make sure that you are packing feminine products. That can be a variation of pads, tampons, Diva Cup. There are so many options for feminine products. There have been so many instances where I have run into another woman or a mother where they have asked, does anybody have an extra sanitary pad or tampon or anything of that nature to kind of help? Being able to have that on hand, not just for yourself when you need it, but for others that may be in need, other women that are finding themselves at the wrong time of the month. That is something that is extremely valuable and helpful to other women. So ladies, if you can, if you have the space in your pack, and if you are including a hygiene pack, throw some extra pads, some tampons if you have the option to, because you may be able to help somebody who needs them. I wanted to include a special note for a lot of my parents that are out there. I myself am a parent to a young child, and that presents some complexity from a preparedness perspective, especially when you're considering packing a bug out bag. It is always a useful activity for your child if they are strong enough and old enough to carry their own pack. But let's be honest, they're not going to be carrying a lot of the emergency readiness items that they would normally carry if they were an adult. So you may find that your pack will not just be packing for you, but packing for you plus one or plus multiple, depending on the size of your family and who is in your family. My personal bug out bag, especially when I'm traveling as a family and we're traveling as a group, my personal bag will include additional items because I'm thinking of what my young child would need if there was ever a situation. That can look like extra water bottle containers, extra food, extra medication. That might even include additional diapers to have on hand. They don't take up a lot of space, but that is something you're gonna need to consider if you are prepping for a family or prepping for young children. But this is a great opportunity to help them get familiar with what they would pack and how they would use the gear inside their bug out bag if there was ever a situation that would call for it. I have been traveling for a number of years with this same pack, and it has changed over time. So I wanted to share its most current version with you. I have taken this with me on every recent trip. I've been traveling a lot more for my day job. So whenever I'm sharing that I'm bringing my bug out bag with me on social media, the number one question I get is, what are you packing in your bug out bag that allows you to be able to fly? And surprise, there are a lot of things that you can retain and keep in your bag that can stay if you are using that as checked baggage, and some modifications you'll want to consider if you were going to use it as a carry-on. But for the most part, there is a lot of the same things that are allowed on a flight that you don't necessarily have to take out or replace just because you are flying to your destination rather than driving. Tell me in the comments below what you are packing and the modifications you're making for your travels when you bring your bug out bag. I would love to incorporate other perspectives. Again, remember that this is going to be unique to the needs of you as an individual and unique to the needs of your family. Many of the items in this bug out bag were very easy to acquire at a very low cost. In fact, I did a recent video of preparedness on a budget. Go ahead and check it out for some inspiration. Thanks for following along for some practical prepping. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Des, MuthaPrepper, and I will catch you next time.